Montreal, June 9th, 2013. The Canadian Grand Prix was almost over. Sebastian Vettel was cruising. No chaos, no drama, just another Red Bull parade lap. Off course. But then it happened. Esteban Gutierrez had spun off. No big deal, just another rookie error. So the marshals did what they always do. Grabbed the recovery crane, went out to help. But that's when the nightmare hit. Mark Robinson, one of the volunteer marshals, was helping guide the Sauber back off the track. He was carrying a radio and jogged alongside the recovery truck. But he slipped, lost his footing, and before anyone could react, the crane ran him over. Just like that, he was gone. A man who gave his time to protect the sport was killed by the very thing meant to keep it safe. But it wasn't a high-speed crash, no flaming wreck, no car parts flying across the track. But this was worse, because it was silent, sudden, real. F1 talks a lot about danger, but it usually means drivers, not the people in orange suits cleaning up after them. This crash changed that. It reminded everyone that motorsport risk doesn't stop when the cars slow down. The paddock was stunned. No one knew what to say. Even Vettel, who won the race, sounded broken in the post-race interview. It's a reminder, he said, that we're not untouchable. The FIA responded. Better marshal training, rules about where recovery vehicles can go, tighter safety zones, but it all came one life too late. So yeah, 2013 had crashes. Massa spun. Grosjean got grounded a few times. But the worst one, the one that stuck, it was this. The moment when F1 lost someone who wasn't in the spotlight, just doing his job, and paid for it. Not every crash is a headline, but this one mattered. Suzuka, 2014, a completely nightmare. It was typhoon season, but Japan said, let's race anyway. And that's where it all started. Rain was pouring, visibility was trash, drivers were skating, not driving, but yet, no red flag, no safety car, just double yellows and a bit of hope. But then Adrian Sutil crashed, slid off at Dunlop Curve and hit the barrier. Marshals brought out the tractor crane to recover his car. A massive piece of machinery on a live racetrack, with cars still going 200 kilometers per hour in sketchy rain. A lap later, same corner, same conditions, Jules Bianchi arrived, and his Marussia didn't just spin, it aquaplaned, straight off, full throttle, no grip, zero control. But it didn't hit a barrier. It hit the crane. Bianchi's car slid under it like a missile. The force was so brutal it tore apart the roll structure. His helmet took the hit. It wasn't a crash. It was a nightmare. The kind you don't wake up from. The race kept going, kind of. But the mood, gone. Completely. The paddock was silent. Mechanics stopped moving. Engineers stared at monitors, hoping for any update. They knew. Jules was airlifted, placed in a coma. He survived 9 months before passing away in July 2015. 25 years old. A Ferrari Junior. The future of the team. Gone. But here's the brutal truth. It was preventable. Race control had every reason to stop the race. The typhoon was real. The track was soaked. Recovery vehicles should never be on track without a safety car, but they didn't stop, and Jules paid the price. His crash changed everything. FIA created the virtual safety car, an automatic speed limiter system for yellow flag zones. They reviewed crane access rules. They changed wet weather protocol. All of it came after losing one of the most talented young drivers of the decade. But the craziest, most heartbreaking part? Jules saved another driver's life. Without his crash, the halo wouldn't have happened. And without the halo, Charles Leclerc would have been crushed in 2018. Hamilton might have had Verstappen's car crush his head in 2021. Zhou wouldn't be walking after Silverstone 2022. Jules never stood on a podium, never won a race, but his legacy is written into every car on the grid, every halo, every life saved. Rest in peace. Sochi, 2015. Final practice session for the Russian Grand Prix. Quiet, calm, until Carlos Sainz Jr. stepped on the gas a bit too much. At turn 13, Sainz hit a bump, hard. The car snapped sideways, but then, crash. He slammed into the barrier at insane speed. No build-up, no sliding, just instant, brutal impact. The telemetry showed 46 G, that's 46 times the force of gravity. For reference, most people lose consciousness at just 9 to 10 G. This was cat-like reflex territory. When the car hit, everything splintered. Wheels exploded. Carbon fiber panels flew everywhere. The guardrail bent under the hit. So hard, it knocked the barrier out of shape. Track had to stop practice immediately. They literally had to rebuild the wall. On the radio, nothing. Silence. Then Sainz's voice came through. I'm okay. He climbed out calm, but pale. Engineers rushed over to make sure he wasn't hurt. They scanned him in tiny pieces. No broken bones, no head injuries, but he looked shaken. You don't hit 46G and walk away without damage. It wasn't filmed live, but we got slow-mo replays. The barrier was crushed. The paddock was shaken. Crew chiefs realized this wasn't a race crash. It wasn't a fire. It was hidden danger, waiting in a smooth practice session. Stewards didn't hand out penalties, just a new respect for bumps and walls. This crash didn't make headlines like Monaco or Spa, but it made engineers tremble. It made them check every pixel of track data, every barrier spec, every brake call. Sainz, he stepped back into the car for qualifying with a head full of questions, but alive, and reminding everyone F1 isn't just dangerous when you race. It's dangerous all the time, even during practice. Melbourne, 2016, opening race of the season. Everyone's pumped. Alonso's in a McLaren that drives like a depressed lawnmower. But hey, hope's a powerful thing. But then lap 18 happened. Alonso was chasing Esteban Gutierrez. Nothing wild, just regular midfield misery, until they got to turn 3. Alonso moves to the inside. Gutierrez brakes, but not enough room. They touch wheels. But Alonso's car doesn't just spin. It explodes, like straight up airborne. We're talking full launch, flips, twists, and rolls like he's trying to qualify for a gymnastics final. The McLaren hits the gravel trap and somersaults multiple times. Then it slams into the barrier. What's left looks like someone tossed a go-kart into a blender. It's a miracle there's anything still resembling a car. But then, Alonso climbs out. Dude just crawls from the the wreck like he's late for lunch, wipes the dust off, gives a little wave. Meanwhile, the paddock is having heart attack. The crash was caused by a bad mix of dirty air, late braking, and Alonso maybe trusting the brakes a bit too much. But the car did its job. The survival cell stayed intact. The structure held up like a tank in a washing machine. After the crash, Alonso said he felt lucky to be alive. The FIA reviewed the footage. No penalties. Just a racing incident with a side of holy crap. Even Gutierrez ran over mid-race to check on him. That's how gnarly it looked. It wasn't just a crash, it was a damn stunt reel. You could show that to a Marvel producer and they'd say, nah, too unrealistic. The crash reminded everyone that no matter how safe F1 gets, the danger is always real. It's just one bad corner away, and Alonso, still alive, still roasting his team on the radio, still acting like flipping through the air was just a Tuesday. Monaco, 2017. The tightest, slowest, fanciest death trap on the calendar. A day to never forget. It was lap 60. Pascal Wehrlein was driving carefully, defending his position in the Sauber. Behind him, Jenson Button making a one-race comeback for McLaren while Alonso was off chasing Indy dreams. Button saw a small gap at Portier, the tight right-hander before the tunnel, and went for it. Monaco said, nice try, but Button's front wheel tapped Wehrlein's rear wheel. But that tiny hit sent the Sauber straight into the barrier, sideways. The car tilted up like it was doing a stunt. Then it landed awkwardly on its side, jammed between the wall and a barrier. Wehrlein was stuck, like really stuck. He radioed in, panicking, I can't move! The car was tilted so badly his head was inches from the wall. There was nowhere to climb out, nowhere to go. And with no halo back then, it was terrifying. Medical teams rushed. The marshals climbed over the barriers. Everyone watching held their breath. It looked slow, but it was really dangerous. But after a tense few minutes, they pulled him out. No broken bones, no major injuries, but it could have been so much worse. The angle, the position, the helplessness. It was one of the scariest crashes of the season. Button retired immediately after the contact. It ended up being the final moment of his F1 career. Not exactly the fairy tale exit he was hoping for. The crash wasn't violent. It didn't involve fire or flying debris, but it was a sharp reminder. You don't need speed to get hurt in Formula 1. Sometimes all it takes is the wrong hit, at the wrong time, in the wrong corner. And Monaco, it doesn't forgive. Abu Dhabi, 2018. Yas Marina circuit at dusk. Perfect backdrop for fireworks, just not the kind we wanted. Enter Nico Hülkenberg doing his final lap of the race. He's mid-pack, trying to salvage something, but then turn 2 throws a curveball. A weird bump throws the car off balance. Before anyone knows it, the Renault flips. Not a little stumble, it goes full airborne somersault. Roof hits the ground, then the car flips again. Wheel to barrier, then rolls onto its roof. Engines cough out exhaust. The crowd is shocked. Emirates track announcer freezes mid, ladies and gentlemen, while TV replays broadcast the barrel roll in shocking slow motion. Hülkenberg emerges, shaken, helmet askew, living like someone just teleported him out of a horror movie. This was no minor incident. The data showed it bordered on the edge of structural collapse. Front roll bar, survival cell, they all took one for the team. Without the halo, it might have been a real disaster. With it, a miracle. Hülkenberg called it really scary. He was okay. Minor neck pain, a few bruises, but walking away from a multiple roll crash at Yas, that's F1 level luck and engineering wizardry in action. Engineers debriefed it like a crash test gone wrong. Stewards checked every millimeter of carbon. Renault's patch team breathed a sigh of relief. The halo stood tall, slightly bent, but still looking menacingly useful. No one got banned, no career ended, but Yas Marina got a new grim rep. Here's where Hülkenberg learned to fly. Kinda. Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, Montreal, 2019. Mid-race practice. Robert Kubica's Alfa Romeo was out on track during FP3, just normally. But then suddenly, disaster. Kubica hit a high-speed bump mid-corner. The car snapped sideways. One instant he's driving, the next he's airborne. Propelled into the outside wall at around 230 kilometers per hour, the car shredded. Front wing exploded, tire exploded, debris scattered like shrapnel. The impact ripped the halo off its mount. The Monaco bent under force. The car almost folded itself around Kubica. Silence on the radio. Except Kubica, shaken. Box! I go to the garage. He climbed out very slowly, legs trembling. Engineers ran to him, fear in their eyes. They checked him over. He was grimacing, but moving. Medical scan. No broken bones, thankfully, but a neurological scare. He was lucky, so lucky. The garage, devastating. Carbon everywhere. The halo, bent grotesquely. Even though designed to protect him, it couldn't hold the world back entirely. This crash almost broke F1. Not just because it shredded a car, because it exposed vulnerability. The halo protected Kubica, but it showed it was just one part of a fragile system. Kubica missed the weekend. Alfa fielded a reserve. The paddock buzzed in shock. If that crash had happened 50 meters earlier or later, or if the wall had sat closer, Villeneuve could have lost another driver. Every engineer, every fan, every driver paused and thought that could have been a death. There were no penalties, no dramatic fallout, just lots of conspiracy theories about brakes, bump and wind. But the legacy? Real fear. That was 2019's biggest wake-up call. Not flashy, not televised prime time, but utterly terrifying. Pure gamble. A reminder, in F1, it doesn't take thunder to blow everything apart. Bahrain Grand Prix, 2020, lap 1, turn 3. A very tragic day in F1 history. Romain Grosjean drifted right to dodge midfield traffic, barely clipped Daniil Kvyat's AlphaTauri. Just a nudge, but it was enough. His Haas snapped sideways, veered off track, and hit the barrier at 221 kilometers per hour. Then boom! A fireball. A real fireball. Like explosion on impact, car splits in half, flames 30 feet high kind of fireball, and nobody could see anything, just a wall of orange and black smoke. Everyone watching froze. Pit wall radios, silent. Engineers, frozen. Commentators, voice cracking. And for 28 seconds, the world thought Romain Grosjean was dead. But then, he climbed out, through the fire, crawling over a metal guardrail, covered in flames. Marshals and medics tackled him with extinguishers. He collapsed into their arms, burns on his hands, sprained ribs, but alive. Let that sink in. He broke through a flaming car split in half and climbed out with his own hands. It wasn't just a crash, it was a worst-case scenario. The barrier didn't crumple, it pierced the car like a sword. The survival cell jammed between metal layers, and the halo, the one people mocked, it literally bent the steel open to protect his head. Without it, Grosjean dies. No question. The car broke in two. The fuel cell ripped open. Fire ignited instantly. His boot melted. His glove caught fire. Inside the cockpit, temperatures hit over 600 degrees Celsius. But he still got out. Afterwards, the footage rolled again and again. No one believed it. Not even him. He said he was ready to die in the car. He accepted it. Thought of his kids. Then the instinct kicked in. He punched the halo. Crawled toward light. Pulled himself out like a movie hero. Except it wasn't fiction. This was the crash that proved modern F1 cars aren't just safe. They're miracles on wheels. It changed everything. Barrier designs were reviewed. Fire protocols updated. Medical response praised globally. And Grosjean, he became the symbol of survival. People joke about him. But after Bahrain, nobody doubts Romain anymore. He stared down fire, metal, and death and walked out. There's danger. There's unlucky. And then there's surviving a 67G fireball because you were too stubborn to die today. Monza 2021, Temple of Speed, home of Tifosi, Ferrari tears, and in 2021, a crash from hell. Lap 26. Max Verstappen comes out of the pits. Lewis Hamilton is charging down into turn 1. And we all know turn 1 at Monza is basically a trust exercise that nobody ever passes. Hamilton exits just ahead. Max sees a chance. And by chance, I mean 1.5 car widths at best. He dives inside anyway. Typical Max, right? But then they go side by side into the first chicane. But as they hit the sausage curb, boing, Max's Red Bull goes airborne. Literally, air, time. The rear wheel climbs up Hamilton's car like a staircase. Then, bam, lands directly on top of his halo. The Red Bull actually sits on the Mercedes. Verstappen's car just stops, parked on Lewis's face. But in case you were wondering, yes, the tire touched Hamilton's helmet. Hamilton sat motionless for a second. Everyone watching panicked. Then he wriggled out, alive, angry, helmet scuffed like it went through a wood chipper. Max walked off like he just lost a parking spot. Didn't even check if Lewis was okay. Just stomped away. Helmet on. Full Dutch rage mode. The paddock exploded. Red Bull said Lewis squeezed. Mercedes said Max tried murder. Twitter was a nuclear wasteland. Everyone picked sides. Every camera angle got analyzed like a CSI episode. The stewards gave Max a 3-place grid penalty for the next race. Hamilton, meanwhile, had neck pain for days, but still finished the season tied in war with Max. This crash just added fuel to the bonfire. Two title rivals. One parked on the other's head, and the halo said, "Not today." It was the weirdest, scariest, most ridiculous crash of 2021, and somehow also the most poetic. The fight was already boiling. This was just the slap. F1 said, "What if the rivalry got physical?" And the cars replied, "Say less." British Grand Prix 2022. Complete chaos. Lights out. Clean start? Not a chance. Pierre Gasly tries to split George Russell and Zhou Guanyu. Russell shifts left. Gasly's front wing clips Russell's tyre. Russell's car hits Zhou's Alfa Romeo at the worst possible angle, but that's when physics said goodbye. Zhou's car instantly flips upside down. Not a spin. A full-blown roof-grinding slide across the tarmac at over 200 kilometers per hour. He slides upside down through turn 1, sparks flying like a grinder at full blast. But oh no, Zhou's nightmare isn't done. The car hits the gravel, digs in, and then launches. Over the tyre barriers, into the catch fence. The Alfa ends up wedged between the fence and the wall, like someone tried to file it away. You couldn't even see the car at first, just dust, panic, and silence. But inside, Zhou, trapped, motionless, upside down. Commentators went quiet, marshals sprinted, the grandstand stared in horror, and then, the miracle. Zhou gets pulled out, totally unharmed, like not a scratch. How? Halo, halo, halo. That little titanium lifesaver took everything. Held up during the flip, during the fence smash, during the grinding, skidding, flipping madness. Without it, Zhou's helmet hits the asphalt. Or the fence, or worse, post-crash. He casually tweeted from the medical center like, "I'm fine, thanks for the love." Dude looked like he just woke up from a nap, not someone who just auditioned for Final Destination. Russell, to his credit, sprinted out of his own wrecked car to check on Zhou. Class move. Man risked missing the restart just to make sure his fellow driver was okay. The crash caused a red flag, obviously. Replays showed the whole field dodging debris like it was F1 Frogger. One more angle, one more wheel in the wrong place, and we're talking multiple cars in the fence. But all we got was fear, no injuries, just carbon carnage and a few thousand gasps. This wasn't just a crash, it was a test of the car, of the safety gear, of fate. But Zhou, now forever known as the guy who flipped out of a racetrack and walked it off like it was leg day. Melbourne, 2023, the Australian Grand Prix, fast cars, tight corners, and complete chaos. On lap 7, Alexander Albon was pushing hard. His Williams looked strong, but then, boom, out of nowhere, everything went wrong. He was coming through turn 7 fast, over 200 kilometers per hour. The rear of the car stepped out. No warning, no saving it. The car slid off the track and second slammed into the barrier. Hard. The kind of hit that shakes your chest even if you're just watching on TV. Carbon fiber flew everywhere. Gravel blasted across the track like a shotgun. The car bounced off the wall and spun to a stop. Dead silence. Everyone held their breath. Then, relief. Albon climbed out. No broken bones, no limp. Just a stunned look, a bruised ego, and a wrecked car. But don't be fooled. It was one of the scariest crashes of the season. If the car had hit a little differently, more angle, more speed, this could have been very bad. Like, hospital for months? Bad. The car's safety features saved him. The survival cell, the barrier design, the Hans device holding his head. Everything did its job. Still, the impact was huge. Over 20 Gs. His race was over. His car was destroyed. And the team spent the rest of the day picking up pieces and checking sensors. But what made it worse? From the outside, it looked like just another crash. But if you slowed the replay, saw how fast it happened, how violently he hit, that's when the fear hits. This wasn't fire. It wasn't a flip, but it was almost deadly. Quiet, sudden, brutal. Albon was lucky, and he knew it. Australia 2023 gave us drama all over the grid, but nothing made your heart stop like Albon's wall hit, a split-second mistake, a massive crash, and a reminder, F1 is never really safe. Hungary 2024, the stage for one of the heaviest crashes in recent F1 history. Yuki Tsunoda, everyone's favorite Radio Rage goblin, was flying during qualifying, pushing that Red Bull car like it owed him money. But then it happened. Heading into turn 4, Yuki dipped a wheel just slightly over the edge, a little too wide, 1 millimeter too far. The car snapped. No grip, no mercy. He flew off track at over 200 kilometers per hour. Car slammed sideways into the Tech Pro barrier like a wrecking ball into drywall. No bounce, just a sudden, brutal stop. The result? 68 grams. That's 68 times the force of gravity. For comparison, fighter jet pilots black out at around 9. Yuki took 7 times that and somehow didn't dissolve on impact. The car was totaled. Left rear suspension folded like origami. Side pod flattened. Wheel ripped clean off. And the barrier compressed like a soda can under a truck. Radio went silent. Marshals ran. Pit wall looked pale. But then, like nothing happened, Yuki crawled out. No limp, no stretchers, just a "yeah, I crashed" expression like he missed a parking spot. F1 medical teams checked him over. All good. No injuries, not even a sore neck the next day. Because apparently Tsunoda is built different, or maybe just powered by pure fury. The engineers, less calm. They had to rebuild a car that looked like it had been thrown off a cliff. But the real winner, the Halo and survival cell, again, took the hit, held strong, saved another day. Everyone was stunned by the G-force number. 68 gigabytes isn't just high, it's absurd. The crash didn't end a race, didn't injure anyone, but it was a wake-up call. Because that kind of force, one misstep in the wrong direction, and this wouldn't be a funny story about a short guy with attitude, it would have been tragic. But it wasn't, because F1 safety in 2024 is a fortress. Tsunoda, back the next day, swearing at the wind and hunting Q3 again like nothing happened.